Joining us now from Leeds is Andrew Brons, who is the British National Party's MEP, one of their two MEPs. Mr Brons, thank you for being with us. What do you make of what David Cameron's had to say today?
Well, it's an example of utter dishonesty and utter hypocrisy. His party has been in power for 36 of the 66 years since the war and has presided over many of the waves of mass immigration to this country. And now to suggest that it's disrupting people is, well, why didn't he notice this beforehand? We've been campaigning against the effects of immigration for 30 years or so,
no,
and yet the Conservative Party can only discover it now.
Presumably you would welcome him saying that he believes that too many people have come in recent years and that he's going to increase the controls on immigration.
I would welcome it if I thought there was any chance of his doing so, but of course he's saying it before the local elections. He's trying to prevent the utter collapse of the Conservative vote during these elections. Conservatives are good at saying things at elections. If you look at 1970, Heath said no more permanent large-scale immigration. Mrs Thatcher at the 1979 election spoke of how she understood people feared being swamped. In fact, after 1970 and after 1979, immigration continued at exactly the same rates it did before. I'm afraid Mr Cameron is an utterly dishonest politician who has no intention of doing anything at all about it.
So what would you have done? Pulled up the drawbridge 40 years ago and not let people come into this country?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But we're in the position of 2011. What I would say is no more immigration. But of course, the other thing that Mr Cameron's leaving out is the EU. About a third of immigrants come from European Union members, and he's not proposing to do anything about that. We, of course, propose coming out of the European Union completely, so we'd be able to close that door too.
What about what Vince Cable is saying, that there is a need for business to get people with skills to come in to help our enterprise?
Well, I say that if there's a skills shortage, our own education system ought to be filling it. The fact that, or the allegation that we're unable to fill from it. Let me finish. So you ask the questions, I'll do the answering. The fact that we're supposedly have a skills shortage is a sign of failure of our education system. Our education system should be able to train our own people to fill those skills shortages, if indeed they exist.
Finally, do you think that the Prime Minister drawing attention to immigration issues will inevitably, as you say, it's an election time, will inevitably help the BNP?
I don't know. It might well do. It depends whether people can see through his utter dishonesty. If they can, it will undoubtedly help us.
Andrew Brons, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're watching Bolton and Co. You can read Adam's thoughts on that interview with Andrew Brons online or follow us on Twitter. Just look out for the Bolton and Co hashtag. Or take part in our vote. Is immigration good for Britain? Have your say at skynews.com/politics.
British National Party joins us from Leeds now. Mr Brons, apologies for all the problems we've been having in sorting out the line. I do hope you can hear us now.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, good. Thanks very much indeed. Do you support what Mr Cameron said?
I think that it's an example of utter hypocrisy and utter dishonesty. His party has been in government for 36 years since the Second World War. They've made promises in 1970 and in 1979 to cut immigration. In fact, immigration continued after 1970 and after 1979 at exactly the same pace before.
But can he be held guilty for what you say are the sins of previous generations?
I think he is. The point is that his whole language is dishonest. He talks about tens of thousands, and of course he's being criticised by his Liberal partners, but those tens of thousands are net immigration. So in other words, if there should be, for example, 50,000 British people emigrating, he would be quite happy for, say, 70 or 80,000 people to come in. The other dishonesty is that he completely misses out the European Union. He's in favour of remaining within the European Union, and about a third of our immigration comes from the European Union, so that will be untouched by it.
So the BNP would have us out of presumably the European Union, and then you'd be able to stop that. Are you saying there should be zero immigration?
Virtually, yes. there are always exceptional cases where people get married and so on, but certainly for the foreseeable future, I think there should indeed be zero immigration into this country.
And what happens if you've got a research science project and you've got the prospect of building up a kind of brilliant industry in the UK and you can't bring in the other scientists from...
Yes, I think if there's a skills shortage in this country, and they claim there is, then that's an indictment of our education system. What we ought to be doing is training our own people to fill that skills shortage.
Yes.
In the meanwhile, there are already skilled people from abroad, and nobody's suggesting they should be shown the door tomorrow.
But would you allow other people to come in? OK, let's take the example, I don't know, of a bank or a financial services industry which employs hundreds of thousands of people in the City of London. It is a very international community that works in those banks. Would you rather say no to immigration and have those banks move their headquarters somewhere else?
I'd say no to immigration, yes, absolutely.
And if that means the headquarters move and tens of thousands of British jobs and tens of thousands... Let me finish my point.
You're posing a hypothetical situation that doesn't necessarily exist.
Well, but if the banks can't... Sorry, Mr. Brons, to interrupt you. If the banks can't get the skills people that they need to function in a competitive marketplace, then surely they will move their headquarters elsewhere. It's much more than hypothetical, it's real.
No, it isn't. What you're raising is a hypothetical problem which can be dealt with at the time. But certainly, for the foreseeable future, there should be no immigration to this country. If there are skills shortages, our education system can make up for that shortage. Mr. Cameron talks about stopping immigration, but in fact, if you look at the small print, he's got no intention of stopping EU immigration. He's no intention of stopping immigration that is matched by the emigration of our own people. The one part of his speech that I would react to positively is where he talks about the effect on communities, the so-called disjointedness. For the first time, he's recognising that immigration doesn't only have economic effects, or if you like, geographical effects, but also sociological effects, where people feel alien in the communities in which they live. But of course, will Mr. Cameron do anything about it? No, he won't. He won't do anything more about it than Mrs. Thatcher did before him, or Mr. Heath before her. But I'm afraid the Conservative Party is the party of dishonesty and hypocrisy.
Mr. Brons, don't you accept that people can change? I mean, the Conservative Party has changed its policy on an awful lot of things, and it seems to be engaging in this issue of immigration.
Not at all. For one thing, it's in government with the Liberal Democrats who are already criticising it, so he won't be able to carry his whole government together. I would say that there's absolutely no chance of him doing anything, even if he were in government by himself. But he's not. He's dependent on the Liberal Democrats, and they'll oppose it. OK, Mr. Brons, we have to leave it there. I'm grateful to you, and I'm sorry for the delays we had in getting through to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.